Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Let's give everyone a minute to join before we begin. Perfect. As you guys are waiting, feel free to just add where you are joining from in the chat. It would be lovely to know. That's awesome. We have William from Ottawa, Justin from Niagara Falls. That's beautiful place. We have Andrew from Calgary, Chris from San Francisco. Pretty much have people from all around. I see North Carolina, Baltimore, Columbus. Awesome. Cool. Let's go ahead and get things started here. Firstly, thank you everyone for joining us today for our Fieldwire Basics webinar on creating custom forms on Fieldwire. My name is Pranati Gompa, and I'm a program manager here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, I would like to address a few housekeeping items. To ensure the smooth session, all the attendees are muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A panel. The same place where you were adding your location, that's a great place. Again, we'll have the Q&A session at the end of this presentation, and we'll do our best to address as many questions as we can. And for any questions we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you directly. We also have some poll questions during the webinar which you could participate in. Please feel free to select your answers when the questions pop up. And additionally, we have a 5 question survey at the end of this webinar, and we would really appreciate it if you could fill that out. That survey helps us to determine the usefulness of this content and also just helps us to understand the future content that you guys want to watch. And we are recording this webinar, so we will be sending the recording of this webinar to all of you who are attending. So before we dive into the webinar, please take a moment to fill this first question here. So there you go. Just a quick question on what type of company do you work for? Architect, engineer, consultants, GCs, subs. Just want to understand like the composition of the group here today. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And then let's do another quick question as well before we begin this. Just a quick question on what's your role at your company. Again, just wanting to understand the composition of this group today. Awesome. Well, I'm seeing a healthy mix of project managers, project coordinators, and engineers. That's amazing. And we do have a bunch of others. I have no idea how I can classify those further, but that's nice to know. Awesome. Let's end this poll as well. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our host today, Roma.
Hello, thank you, Pranati. Yes, just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Roma. I'm a construction solutions engineer here at Fieldwire, so I help customers figure out if Fieldwire is the best fit for them, workflows, things like that. My background in the industry is heavy civil general contracting as well as facilities management, so I like to know about the whole building cycle. Our agenda for today, we did quick intros. I'm going to give a really brief overview of Fieldwire itself, and then we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes. So today we're focusing on creating custom forms in Fieldwire. We're going to learn how to navigate, how to build that, how to upload your own fillable PDFs, seeing how the forms can link to other modules, and then lastly, how you can pull that data out of Fieldwire. So really brief overview of Fieldwire for those of you who may be unfamiliar. We are a job site management platform. And I would say these three things in bold around the circle are our three pillars. We want to make it easy for the people in the field to capture information and then share it with the office for you guys, you PMs here, to analyze. So we do have a variety of different modules that we offer. They're listed here. But again, we're just focusing on forms today, and I did want to just emphasize that the forms module is available on the business and business plus tiers, so it's not available on the pro or the basic tier. Just wanted to let everyone know. So let's take a look at our forms module. First things first, just a little background on like what I mean when I say forms. In Fieldwire, I like to think of it as any sort of paperwork. So anything you're filling out, it could be a daily, which is what we're going to walk through today, JHAs, toolbox talks, inspection forms, really any paperwork that you're filling out. And the benefit of having it on Fieldwire is that you can create custom statuses. So you can create these workflows of, hey, yes, I submitted this. Great, now it's in accounting's hands. Now it's invoiced, something like that, for example. You can quickly search your data for it. That's something I'll show you when we extract it. Extract the data into a CSV. So for example, if you wanted to know how many weather days you have. And my favorite part is the going paperless. So you can quickly fill out your forms on your mobile device, and we don't have any more crumpled up pieces of paper from, everyone on site who just scribbled down what they did today. So jumping into Fieldwire, this is the daily that we're going to look at, that we're going to create today. Let me just open up my forms project over here. And just taking a look at this daily, we do have our, who's it signed to, the weather, we have a quick survey, work log and material delivery logs, and then a quick section for attachments and signatures. So we are keeping it really simple for today. I think based on my conversations with customers, this captures a lot, but again, you guys can customize this however you'd like. So if we're making a form, I'm in my forms module. We're going to hit plus new form, new template, and create new. So it's going to give me a pop-up, and it's going to ask me to select which template I want. We do have 5 out-of-the-box forms you can start from. We are going to start with a blank template, so I'm starting from scratch, and this is going to be my daily. So I'm turning on the date of this form. What this does is it lets me pull in, for example, the weather data. The weather data is found with your project zip code and the date of your form that your form is due. So now that I have this up, that I selected my form, we are in the background form builder. So the first thing that we can customize is sort of the metadata. So yeah, we have our dates on, our permissions. This kind of goes into users, and basically this is asking me who can edit the form when it's editable. Is it just admins and the person who it's assigned to, or is it everyone? I recommend leaving it as admin and assignee because you just don't want anyone to update all data Whereas, maybe it's a toolbox talk, someone wants to sign that they read it, you could leave it as all users. The next thing we can customize are these statuses. So Fieldwire defaults to draft and submitted, but maybe for your daily, for example, we want to add another status called verified, and that's just if your foreman, your super, whoever it may be, wants to say, hey, yeah, I looked it over, we're all good to go. These columns, they are even more granularity into each status. So for example, when it's submitted, I do want my foreman to be able, or my super, even my PM, to edit it while it's in that status. So I switch that to yes. And once it's verified and submitted, obviously I don't want any changes retroactively made. Similarly, I can choose which users can put it into verified status. So this is something where I would only want administrators to do that. I wouldn't want, again, anyone from site saying, yes, this is a perfectly looked over daily report. So I'm going to change those statuses as well. And I can see it here on the top of my finished report. Now, this is the main part of form building. We have our different section types. So how it works in Fieldwire is these different section types are building blocks to make your form. So for example, I have my weather type, my list, table, etc. So we'll start with weather. This one is the simplest. You don't have to do really anything. You can just title it weather. And like I mentioned, Fieldwire will pull the data based on the address and the due date. So what I did is I hit the preview button up on the top right over here just to see what it looks like, my form looks like so far. And again, I can see my statuses here. So now we're going to do a list section for my survey. So I'm just going to title it General Info. And what a list section is it's like one question and one answer. You are asking your question, you want a specific type of answer here. And what we see here are our Fieldwire's different types of answers. So short and long text, this is just exactly what it sounds like. Text entry, integer and decimal, they don't allow, for example, alphanumeric entries, only numeric entries, date and time, checkbox and notes. You can even have a drop down for your users and plans. So I'm going to select checkbox and notes, and I'm going to type in my question, any schedule delays. And when I hit preview, I can see that it looks just like my form over here, and they can type in any notes that they have as well. So this is a bit of an iterative process. Within this list section, I am going to add my, my next question, any weather impact, and it's just going on, so on and so forth. Moving on to the work log. So this section is a table, and why I recommend table sections versus list for work logs is because our tables are dynamic. What we are doing in customizing these forms are creating these different columns, and whoever's filling out the form will add the different rows as the data is input. So great for work log and material delivery. Obviously, you don't know how much material is getting delivered. You just keep on adding as you go. I've seen people use this for observations, time cards, a bunch of different applications for each of these tables. So let's start with our first column, the trade. We're going to select which column we want, and you can see that these are really similar to the list section. One thing that we did have in the list section that I want to highlight now is that you can create custom drop-down menus. So I'm going to hit this new entry type, and I'm going to add a trade. And what I'm doing is creating this drop-down for foreman, laborer, and we'll do equipment operator. And now that I've added my list, I've seen people use this for equipment as well. So if you have a certain repository of equipment, you can keep that there. And what this does is it helps minimize typos. For example, if you have specific cost codes, now they can select, I don't have to worry about someone, misspelling laborer or equipment operator like I just did. So from here, we can add our next column. So our quantity, we want to know how many foremen were on site. I'm going to go with integer because obviously we can't have half of 4 men on site. I'm going to select decimal because someone can work for a half hour. And then I'm just adding a last column for notes. This short text and long text, they're the same thing. It's just aesthetically the date and time as well. They take up 2 column spaces here. So you can see in this note, it's taking up 2 column spaces rather than 1. So I'm just going to take a look at this with our preview, and I can see here, great, I see my foreman. I got 2 of them. They worked 8 hours, etc., etc. So we can see here that dynamic table I was mentioning. Our material delivery, it's pretty similar. You know, we have our quantity, our unit cost. So here we can click this to duplicate that table, and now we don't have to start from scratch. So I'm just going to hit this pencil to rename it to material delivery log. And now when I click into my first column here, I can change the type. So it's on my list. I want to change it to short text. There's no way I could make a drop down that had every single material available. And I'm going to rename it to description. I'm going to leave my quantity. I actually will change it to a decimal because I could have, you know, for example, half a yard of something delivered. And while I'm pointing this out, I do want to take a note that we can set default values and units as well. So this is a great way you can customize, click into it and see what you can adjust in Fieldwire. So our next one is unit. I'm going to add a new column here, select a short text and hit unit. So from here, I can rearrange the location with the arrow. So I'm just shifting where unit is so it matches my example over here. I'm going to rename hour to unit cost. And again, I'll change it. I'll leave it at decimal, but I will assign it a unit. And this currency, it's in US dollars, but I think someone mentioned that they were from Canada. You can change the units in your settings tab as well. You can say that, hey, you know, we are obviously in Canadian dollars. The cool part about this material delivery is that it will calculate totals for you. So you can create a new column, and now we can select calculation. So what it's going to do is we're going to pull up the expression builder, and now I can do quantity times cost to get my total. You can see here I can't select the units and description because we can't do math with units like that. Obviously there's units in math. So here we go, our total cost. I'm going to enter it and shift it a little to the left. So now when I hit preview, I can see here, let's go with some rebar. I had 23, let's say it was really cheap. You can put in your cost there. With our example, however, I can see that we have a total row right here, and I want to turn that on. So in order to do that, we're going to hit this pencil, and we're going to turn the total row on to sum. So now I have my total rows. When I insert my quick math over here, we can see it totals each line as well as the total overall. If I don't want, you know, maybe the unit cost and the quantity makes no sense, we can click on the boxes again to customize, and now we have the option to turn it off. So, excuse me, just to reiterate, Fieldwire does totals with the decimal and the integer types. So now I can see here, these are gone. I just have my total cost here. All right, our next section is the attachment section. Now I see this most used in progress photos because if you're on Fieldwire on your mobile device, your tablet, whatever, what have you, you can quickly take a picture right from your device and say, hey, this is our progress photos. So I do see it most often for photos, but you can attach anything. So if you get, for example, a stop work order, you can have that here, any receipts, anything like that, you can upload them. That's no problem. The customization involved in Fieldwire is basically the minimum. So I have seen people say like, hey, I want a minimum number of progress photos, 10 minimum. You can add that here. It'll show up in the description. And anything that is required, it will show with this little star, this little red star. So again, they can just add their files from there. The signature section is incredibly similar. All you have to do is select signature. And I do want to reiterate, with all of these sections, they're building blocks. So you can have as many signatures, as many tables, as many lists as you want. So I have seen people create like, okay, this is our supervisor signature versus the team signature, for example, for your toolbox talk. So again, if you want to create a minimum number of signatures, what this will do is this is going to prevent someone from submitting this daily without a signature. I would get an error if I clicked it. So once I'm happy with my form, I like how it looks on the preview, everything's looking great. I'm going to hit publish. And what this does is it brings it out of edit mode. And now people can go into their forms and start filling out a daily. So today's the 11th. And I can see it's assigned to me and the due date here. And I can see all of my form and start filling it out as needed. So I do also want to talk about that we made this form. Great. It's only in my project now. One of the benefits of Fieldwire is having all of your projects being able to be templatized. So I do want to push this form to our account level. I want it I want it in my project, but I also want to push it to the account level. So we're going to go to Manage Template. If I wanted to edit this again, I could hit Unpublish, but all I'm doing is hitting the Actions button and doing Publish to Account. So what this is going to do, once I hit Publish, it's saving, and I go back to my home page. If I click on Templates, it will show up in my account form templates. Now, I do have a couple of dailies, as you can see here, and once I'm happy, I can hit Publish, and I'll be able to pull it in. So pull it into projects as well. So this form, again, it's on my account level. I can add it to project templates as well. But in this case, I just want to add it to my project. So I'm going to my forms. And I'm going to do the same thing when making a new form, except instead of create new, I'm hitting import from account. So I can select as many as I'd like. Let's do concrete test report. And I think I have an inspection as well. I can import it and it will pull it into my projects. So this is a great way to standardize and create forms, or stop yourself from having to create forms over and over again. I just have to make my daily ones. So I do want to pause, and we're going to ask a quick poll question. And how do you process forms like dailies and safeties on your job sites? I see some people we don't have to fill forms, and I'm jealous. I worked a lot of federal projects. We definitely had to fill a lot of paperwork out. I see a lot of Fieldwire users and paper forms as well. Okay. We'll give it a little more. Awesome. So I saw there was a good chunk of you also using Fieldwire forms. I did also want to mention, not only can we create these forms on Fieldwire, you can also upload your own fillable PDFs. So let me just pull up an example. So this is a PO. Like I mentioned, I worked a lot of federal jobs. I know that governments, cities, municipalities, they want a certain look to their paperwork, and some companies, even you want to keep your brand. So this is just an example of a purchase order that I have. Um, it is a fillable PDF and I want to keep it the same. So we can push it into Fieldwire. All I have to do is hit new template, create new, and this time instead of starting with a blank template or one of Fieldwire's, we're just uploading an existable PDF. So if I want to add in my PO, I'm going to upload file. All I'm doing is dragging and dropping my PO right here. I can upload the file and hit create. So it's going to bring me to the forms builder. We're in the back again. And obviously there's a lot less to customize because you've already had your calculations here created in the fillable PDF, for example. What we can create are the statuses. So I made verified last time. This is a great one for maybe submitted to accounting and, invoiced, approved, etc., what have you. This is something, again, if it's invoiced, I don't necessarily want someone to change it. So you can configure all that. Once you're happy, you can hit publish and people can start filling out the PO. So again, if I have, this is a PO for today, you'll see it looks just like this, and I can add in my different totals here. So it's really simple. And I would say the benefit of, putting in your fillable PDFs is if you have a standard process, this is a great way to kind of mitigate change management. You still get the ease of use of using Fieldwire on your mobile device, for example. I can quickly fill out this PO, but maybe it's not fully changing my field team's workflow, so they're more used to it. One of the benefits, on the other hand, of Fieldwire's forms is that we can export this data. And I'll show you that in a second. I do want to go over linking forms to other modules as well. So here we have, obviously we can make a form from here. I do want to show you linking it to our plans module. So I find this really useful for, like I mentioned, inspection reports. If you have an inspection that you want to know that it passed, in case you have someone from OSHA coming on site, you can quickly pull it up. So we're going to hit this hyperlink icon. And then this little clipboard is our form. So if that let's say that's a fire rated door or something, I can put in my inspection here. This is just selecting from existing forms, but I can also create a new one. So again, there's my fire stop inspection. Let's pretend that's for fire door. And it will pull up the form. I can start filling this out. Really useful. Again, I don't have to jump from looking at a plan to digging through my forms. I can just click it right there. Very similarly, in my task section, if I were to have, for example, the concrete pour, if you click your little paper clip over here, you can link a form as well. So here, if I want to choose an existing form, let's find my daily. I can attach that here. It's really simple. Again, I can attach multiple forms to tasks, but what I like about it is not only can I see that the form is linked in the task, but the other way around. So here it shows me all the tasks that are made here. You can see I can even make a task from this form, and this is great. For example, if you're using a form for like meeting minutes, obviously meeting minutes, everyone has a bunch of to-dos afterwards, so you could easily make a new task and say, this is my to-do. It was generated from such and such meeting, and you can see it here as well. So there's a lot of benefits to linking the forms and just having that accessibility. So great. I have my forms. My project's completed. I have a bunch of paperwork that I have to sift through. What can I do with it? So with my PO, I can, for example, it's a fillable PDF. So I can quickly export this and it will just turn into a PDF just like this that you see on this right-hand side. With my dailies, so I have a lot more dailies, obviously. Let's pretend, maybe of hundreds. You're able to select all of your Fieldwire dailies or whatever form you have and export them as a CSV. The benefit of this is really being able to dive into your data and, see, for example, how many weather days you had. So I'm going to switch over here. Oh, I lost my daily. Give me 1 second. Here we go. There's my daily. Um, this is just an example. I ran this from another project of daily reports from this project. I can see, who it's assigned to, the status. Like I mentioned with the weather days, I could add a filter and I can filter by, days that were rainy, and I could see which days that were rainy, put that into my time impact analysis. You can see all of your different, again, answers to your questions. So if there was a schedule delay, which days did we have a schedule delay? So there's a lot you can definitely play with. And I think that's one of the better benefits of Fieldwire forms, just having all of your data in one place. I can see, again, who signed off, um, all of that good stuff. And that is what I had for forms today. We do have a really quick poll question before we get into the Q&A. And that is, do you think you'd implement this workflow or parts of this workflow within your company? Awesome. And now we'll
Thank
just
you
move
so
it on to the Q&A.
much. Yeah, thank you so much for going over this workflow. Let's go ahead and get things started with the Q&A. First question I have for you is in the project settings, you can select or set locations. And does these locations can only be assigned to a form without having to assign them to a task? Can you maybe like talk about the form locations and how that works with the forms?
Yes. So, okay, just to give background, everyone, the project settings is this gear icon, and the address can be put in to this section right here. So, forms are the only place where this data is really extracted because of the weather data. When it comes to tasks, they are, that, they're in the same location because that's where the task report shows, for example, that, hey, we're at this address. When it comes to specific geolocations of tasks, when you pop it down, it doesn't have the address associated with it. Am I understanding the question
Yeah,
correctly?
that's correct. So,
Okay. Yes. We do
yeah, so
have. Mhm.
it doesn't pull the location onto the task. It just takes the location for the forms. And anyone who has access to the project can see your location because they can just see it on the project settings.
Yes, exactly. And we do have locations here. So this is a customizable attribute here where you could create like which building. I've seen people do like stations. And so just so you get an idea of where your task is on your job site.
Perfect. The next question is, can you touch upon what hint means and how it works?
Yes, that's a great question. So going back to my forms, let's go to manage template and my daily. So that's a great catch. With our hints, we have it here. Let's stick it. This is just kind of to nudge your team in the direction that you want. So let's say someone wants a weather impact, maybe just asking me to unpublish. Maybe if there's a weather impact, you want them to please fill out a time impact analysis. It's just another, this is the kind of answer I'm looking for. So now when I hit preview, it'll work out. It'll show in light gray on the form. So now if I say, yes, there's a weather impact, it rained today, you can see once I filled it in, it it removed my hint, but again, now I know, like, all right, I can fill this out. I've seen it a lot with if yes, please explain why, for example, if there is a safety incident, something like that. Similarly, we also have default values. So with our schedule delay, most of the time you're not going to have a schedule delay. So if I put my default value as no, when I start this form, it's going to say no. But again, if I did have a schedule delay, then I could overwrite it and say, yes, this is why. You can do these defaults again for any of these for your short text entries and your long text. So again, if you wanted this default to be 8 hours because that's your 8-hour workday, that's a use case as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The next question is, do I have to be an admin for me to be able to publish a form for anyone else to use instead of just the project?
Yes, that is a short answer. Yes, you have to be an admin in order to create and customize a form. However, you can be a member or a follower to fill out a form. It's just the builder, the back end is admin only.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The next one is on is there a way I can publish the fillable PDFs to the account level, or is it only for Fieldwire forms?
It is for both of those. So when I go to manage template, you go to actions, publish to account. It's the same workflow. So now I will see it in my templates. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is, you used a Firestop item in your example. Can you touch upon if there are any Firestop specialty contractors using Fieldwire? I feel like our forms tend to be different. I can answer this. Ryan, we're doing a full on Firestopping use cases next webinar, which is on July 9th. So if you're interested in learning more about how to use Fieldwire for Firestopping, uh, please watch the next month's webinar.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Can we put customizable locations into forms?
Um, I might need some clarity on this question, but do you mean customizable locations similar to the tasks with the drop downs, or
I'm thinking, is there a way you can add just like a location slash address? I don't know. I'm thinking the only way you can do it is just by adding it as a long text and letting them add an address, but I don't know if we have a list entry that says location.
so we can definitely create a list entry that has, for example, location. You can have area 1, 2,
Yeah,
3, 4. You could have it drop down here. We do not have the ability to bring in the locations that are tiered from the tasks. But again, you can just have a short text or um, you can have a short text or a long text. I also do want to mention opening up this. So this is an export of the form. All of your project data, like the address, the name, the code, will be here at the top. So you wouldn't have to write down your project data because it's going to be in the form already.
perfect. Thank you. If I take a form that I did not create from the account level and move it to my project, can I edit that form if it does not exactly fit to my project?
Yes, that is a great question, and so showcases a great feature of Fieldwire. So if I want to import any of these forms, let's do my briefing. What it's going to do, because I'm pulling it on the project level and I'm editing it on the project level, it will only adjust on the project level. So if I go to manage template, and let's say I just don't want this here, the short answer is yes, I'm just showing you the example. I can publish this and see that, hey, that's all gone. Great. I can use it here. And then in my templates side, I already forgot it was a briefing. There we go. I can't spell. It will show it will show in the it will not show, excuse me, in the templates account on your account level. So yes, we see this all the time. People create baseline templates, and then because, for example, specialty contractors, every job is different. You'll add sections as needed.
Perfect. Thank you. Can you just again go over how to export or download all the reports or like all the forms at the end of a project?
Yes, let me go to a different project that has a little more forms in it so we can see the difference. So, all right, we have 3 dailies, but that's okay. Here, you're going to select all of your forms and hit Actions Export. You can select CSV, and then you'll get an email, and then it'll show up like the uh, spreadsheet that I showed you over here. It'll show up like this. And I do want to note these are exports of the same form. So the reason that it has all of these questions in every column is because these are the same form. They are formatted to fit the same column. If I wanted to do a CSV export of all of my forms across the job, this is something where if I exported it in this screen, I have my inspections, my safeties, my dailies. The export would be a little more metadata focused because they have different questions. So just keep that in mind when you're exporting. Make sure to select the same type of form. You'll get the most granular data. But again, if it is more just like, I want to see how many forms we've submitted or something more general, that's something where I recommend you could export all of them of the project.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question we have is how would you use forms for a punch list or AOR? I can take this. I specifically don't know what AOR means, but we would recommend using our tasks for punch lists rather than the forms. You can always create a checklist on the form and add it as a punch list, but the tasks give you a better functionality and just like a lot of back and forth on the punch list. And we do have prior webinars on how you can use tasks for punch lists, which I can send you later. Awesome. So the next question is, can forms be automatically emailed to someone once the form is submitted as marked or like marked as submitted? Can we
We
email?
don't, you can email the form. Here we have a little email button. It's not something that's done automatically once it's submitted. We do have an integration with Microsoft Teams where you can set up, excuse me, you can set up basically a notification and a channel when so and so submits a form. Hey, this channel gets notified, but we don't have an email automatically.
Yeah, that's correct. Awesome. I'm Again, I think it's similar questions. I'm seeing a lot of questions on if this recording will be sent. Yes, we will go ahead and send you this recording after this webinar, and this recording will also be available on YouTube. So if you just go to YouTube, search for Fieldwire webinar custom forms, you will very easily find it. And we're also at the end of our time. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. Again, I hope the session was really useful, and we would really appreciate it if you can just stay back for a couple of minutes after this and fill out the survey and just add any different topics that you would love to see, or just give us any feedback on this webinar. That way, we can just improve these webinars and make them more useful to you guys as well. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.